Hi, welcome back to Joe Blogs. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about the amazing allegations that China is operating a network of illegal police stations all across the world.
A run-of-the-mill convenience store, an innocuous office unit in the suburbs, and a residential home like any other. Just some of the unremarkable places alleged to be woven into a vast secret network of Chinese overseas police stations.
Above this noodle shop in New York's Chinatown, agents of the Chinese Communist government operated an overseas police station for years. There are more than 100 of them worldwide. They don't usually look like a police station. They may only be back rooms, but they're staffed by Chinese government officials.
The FBI has recently busted one of these illegal police stations in Manhattan and arrested 2 US citizens.
Here in New York City tonight, the FBI busting what they say was a secret police station here in New York run by the Chinese government.
This case is a further example of the audacious activities that the government of China has carried out right here on American soil.
So we'll now look at the evidence that's been gathered so far, and at the end of today's video I'll give you my summary as to what I think is happening here, why China has established this network of illegal police stations, and what the implications are both for Chinese citizens and the rest of the world.
The first big question: how many such secret police stations are being operated by China across the world? Well, according to a report by Spanish organization Safeguard Defenders, 54 such secret Chinese stations were reported in the year 2021.
We initially uncovered 54 stations in 30 countries. Now that number has been growing as local journalists, including in Australia, are researching, are digging into the issue. So more keep popping up.
According to Safeguard Defenders, over 100 such police stations, secret police stations, have been set up in at least 53 countries across the globe, including the United States, Canada, Brazil, Argentina, UK, the Netherlands and Italy. Several such stations have been reported in cities across the globe, from Quebec in Toronto in Canada, New York in the United States, Buenos Aires in Argentina, to European cities like Paris, Rome, Glasgow and Amsterdam. These Chinese police stations across continents have emerged. Secret police stations have also been reported in Serbia, Romania and even the United Kingdom.
The police stations, along with so-called aid stations across the U.S., are used by the Chinese government to harass and threaten pro-democracy Chinese immigrants to stop speaking out against the regime and go back to China, even kidnapping them if necessary.
Are mainly run at the moment from 2 counties using this national doctrine to persuade to return through illegal methods. So this goes beyond any traditional legal international police cooperation, judicial cooperation. They're using these stations often based on existing United Front work associations, which we know have been obviously involved in harassing, in threatening dissidents, critics, including in Australia. And we found accounts in particular from the Chinese authorities, one, that through these methods, just in the past year, 230,000 individuals have been returned to China, persuaded to return through these illegal methods. Now, we believe those people are mainly from Southeast Asia, but we've also found express accounts, again, from the Chinese authorities, that these kind of stations, such as possibly the one in Sydney, have been used to track, target, and bring in alleged criminals, to talk to the authorities and to persuade them to return to China against their will.
One of their targets is Li Jianji, a pro-democracy activist who was tortured repeatedly in Chinese psychiatric hospitals before he was able to flee to the U.S., where the persecution has continued. Xi, who does not speak English, told us Chinese government hitmen in the Los Angeles area have tried to kill him 3 times, twice with a car and once by stabbing him in the neck, calling him a traitor as they fled the scene. Chinese government agents and supporters regularly film and disrupt pro-democracy demonstrations in American cities. They warn activists they're being reported to Beijing and that their family back home will be arrested. Chinese democracy activist Jingyu Wang is a U.S. resident now living under police protection in the Netherlands, where Chinese agents have repeatedly harassed and threatened him. He was imprisoned for 2 months in Dubai at the request of Chinese authorities and has had to fight off a knife attack in the Netherlands.
How can I help you? Why you call me?
This is a phone call he recorded from the Chinese embassy in Norway, saying he's been reported to police as having a bomb. The Chinese government has imprisoned his parents to force him to return to China.
They asked me go to Rotterdam, Chinese overseas police station for surrender, and they asked me go back to China. They asked me thinking about my parents from 2022 February to 2022, I think April. Almost every day they will make over 100 phone call to me. Every day, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., keep make phone call to me.
These overseas police stations are only one part of a massive campaign to control Chinese citizens living in other nations. The communist government has also used what it calls Operation Fox Hunt and Skynet to apprehend citizens abroad under the guise of stopping financial crimes.
So the police stations are really just the tip of the iceberg of what we're looking at when we talk about the transnational repression and policing campaigns coming from the Chinese Communist Party to return people to China at all costs, by all means.
Harth says the Chinese government has reportedly forced the return of an incredible 230,000 Chinese back to the mainland between 2021 and last year.
Whilst we're on the topic of policing and security, I wanted to talk to you about today's sponsor, Guardio. One of the things that drives me insane about my YouTube channel are the number of scammers that appear in the comments, constantly copying my identity and using it to try to steal money directly from you guys. And whilst the scammers on YouTube are relatively easy to identify, unfortunately there are more and more scams being developed every single day, and they're being embedded into things like Google ads and Facebook ads. When you browse online, a lot of your information is stored, including passwords, credit details, addresses, and a lot more. And all of that information needs to be protected. And Guardio provides real-time browsing protection that can detect threats before they cause harm and keep you and your information safe. Guardio is really quick and easy to install. And once it is installed, Guardio will work tirelessly in the background to save you from phishing sites, email scams, tech support scams, annoying push notifications, malicious extensions that could be altering your browser settings, and every other sort of scam that you can imagine. With Guardio installed, you'll know that you're safe when browsing online, you can shop securely, and there is no need to worry about visiting harmful websites. And the great news is that Joe Blogs viewers can get a 7-day free trial and 20% off a subscription, and one subscription will cover you and 4 other family members. So in order to take up this offer, please click in the description below.
After they were exposed in the Netherlands and Spain last year, around 13 countries then began probing this matter.
We've known for many years that there are consistent engagements by representatives of the Chinese government into Canadian communities with local media, reports of illicit Chinese police stations. These are all things that we continue to be concerned about, that our officials stay active on, and that we will continue to be vigilant around to keep Canadians safe.
The FBI says that the latest revelations, however, mark an illegal expansion of China's police state.
As we have seen a clear pattern of the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, exporting their repression right here into the U.S. And we've had now a number of indictments that you may have seen of the Chinese engaging in uncoordinated quote-unquote law enforcement action right here in the United States, harassing, stalking, surveilling, blackmailing people who they just don't like or who disagree with the Xi regime.
The US and a number of European countries, including Germany, have now opened investigations into the allegations of Chinese foul play on their soil.
The secret police station took up an entire floor of this Chinatown building in New York City. According to investigators, it was run by the Chinese government to track and even harass dissidents living here in the U.S.
I'm Breon Peace, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York. Today, we are announcing 3 impactful cases from my office in our nation's fight against the People's Republic of China's transnational repression activities. 2 miles from our office, just across the Brooklyn Bridge, this nondescript office building in the heart of bustling Chinatown in Lower Manhattan has a dark secret. Until several months ago, an entire floor of this building hosted an undeclared police station of the Chinese National Police. Now just imagine the NYPD opening an undeclared secret police station in Beijing. It would be unthinkable. Here's what we know happened inside the secret police station in Lower Manhattan. At the very least, the station was providing some government services, like helping Chinese citizens renew their Chinese driver's licenses. But to do even that, the law requires that individuals like the defendants who act as agents of a foreign government give prior notice to the Attorney General before setting up shop in New York City. That didn't happen. More troubling, though, is the fact that the secret police station appears to have had a more sinister use. On at least one occasion, an official with the Chinese National Police directed one of the defendants, a U.S. citizen who worked at the secret police station, to help locate a pro-democracy activist of Chinese descent living in California. In other words, the Chinese National Police appear to have been using the station to track a U.S. resident on U.S. soil. The two defendants, whose arrests we're announcing today, destroyed evidence of their communications with the Chinese National Police when they learned of the FBI's investigation. These two defendants knew they had something to hide, and they obstructed justice in an attempt to prevent the FBI from learning the full extent of what they were up to. Before I go through the evidence in more detail, I'd like to say how proud I am of our office and the New York field office of the FBI, as we are the first law enforcement partners in the world to make arrests in connection with the Chinese government's overseas police stations. Now, the defendants, Liu Jianwang and Chen Jinping, were arrested earlier this morning at their homes in New York City. As alleged, the defendants worked together to establish an overseas police station in Manhattan's Chinatown on behalf of the Fuzhou branch of the Chinese government's National Police Force, the NPS. These defendants did China's bidding in secret while acting under the direction and control of an NPS official in China. Before helping to open the police station in early 2022, the defendant, Liu Jianwang, had a long-standing relationship of trust with PRC law enforcement, including the NPS. In 2018, Liu was enlisted in efforts to cause a purported Chinese fugitive to return to China. The victim of that effort reported that he was repeatedly harassed to return to China. That victim received threats of violence against his family in the United States, and NPS officers harassed the victim's family in China. Last October, FBI agents conducted a judicially authorized search of the secret police station and interviewed both Liu and Chen and seized their phones. In subsequent interviews with agents, Liu and Chen admitted that they had deleted communications with the NPS official from their phones after learning about the ongoing FBI investigation. As we allege, that is obstruction of justice. The defendants' actions under the direction of the Chinese government are flagrant violations of American sovereignty. And thanks to our investigation and arrest today with the FBI, the defendants will be held accountable, and the NPS is on notice that we will not tolerate similar threats to our national sovereignty.
These kind of behaviors should not be tolerated. It's about our sovereignty. It's about our way of life. It's about our freedom. In America, people should not be fearful of speaking their mind, whether it be the critical views of our own government or any foreign government for that matter. The abrasiveness and their willingness to take that kind of actions on American soil is bone-chilling.
2 men, both New York City residents, have been charged with conspiring to act as agents of China's government. 34 MPS officers have also been charged with operating an online troll farm to threaten Chinese dissidents in the U.S. and to spread propaganda to sow divisions in the country.
But what exactly is a troll farm now? A troll farm, it's an organized group of individuals on the internet trolling people with the aim to disrupt an online community. Troll farms conduct disinformation propaganda campaigns by creating fake social media profiles and targeting a particular community. Now, all the 34 accused of creating this troll farm are absconding. As per the charges, the troll farm had created thousands of fake social media accounts to target Chinese dissidents through online harassment and threats.
China is accused of having a secret operative inside the Zoom company and of hacking Zoom sessions.
Task force officers flooded the video conference and drowned out the meeting with loud music and vulgar screams and threats directed at Chinese dissidents.
In this case, the suspects face up to 20 years behind bars if they're convicted. U.S. officials tell us that China poses the most serious threat to U.S. national security.
China denied the allegations and claimed that these are not police stations, but merely service centers for expatriates who need help with administrative work, like renewing certain documents. China has also claimed that these were set up in response to the COVID pandemic. However, the reality on ground is very different. Now, as per officials, they claim that these secret police stations are set to monitor Chinese dissidents and refugees. Officials claim they're also used to set up troll farms. When the allegations emerged in December 2022, the Chinese Foreign Affairs Ministry reacted and rubbished these charges. China said, and I'm quoting here, "We hope relevant parties stop hyping it up and creating tensions." It also added that using it as a pretext to smear China is unacceptable.
The issue came to the fore at last month's G20 summit in Bali. Justin Trudeau told journalists he raised his concerns with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Xi scolded his counterpart over the incident.
Everything we discussed is then leaked to the paper, that's not appropriate. And that's not how the way the conversation was conducted.
Beijing says the overseas police network is to help citizens process paperwork or to crack down on corruption. In 2019, Chinese law enforcement began officially working in Cambodia. Since then, hundreds of Chinese citizens accused of telecom fraud have been deported without due process.
So what's the summary and conclusion today? Well, I wanted to make this video because I think the news that China is allegedly operating illegal police stations in more than 50 countries around the world is really fascinating. As you've seen from today's video, these police stations have not been established to track down internationally recognised criminals. This is not Chinese Interpol trying to track down public enemy number one. What these stations have been established for is basically to track down dissidents, so people who are Chinese citizens, whether they originate from China or whether they actually have nationality elsewhere, as we saw from the FBI reports. The two individuals that they've actually arrested in New York have US citizenship. What these stations are designed to do is basically track down anybody who's talking out or protesting against the existing Chinese authorities. So basically these police stations have been set up to hunt down anybody who's speaking out against the Chinese government. And for countries from the West where freedom of speech is an accepted principle, in countries such as the USA, the UK, Australia, Canada, you are perfectly entitled to be able to express your opinion, even if that goes against the principles of the current ruling regime. However, in China, that isn't the situation. Public protests and demonstrations are relatively rare and are usually short-lived. Now, if you're a citizen of most countries in the world and you don't agree with the political ethos or doctrine of the ruling party, you obviously have the right to leave that country. You can emigrate and go and live your life quite happily elsewhere. But the problem with these illegal Chinese police stations is that they've been set up to track down anybody who has spoken out against China who've left the country. So basically, this is a worldwide manhunt. And there are a couple of really serious implications of this. Firstly, every country in the world has its own police and security system, and international practice states that the local law authorities have control within their boundaries. So the Chinese don't have the authority to be able to go onto US soil or UK soil or Canadian soil and hunt people down. What they should be doing is contacting the local law enforcement in each of those countries and notifying them that there are certain individuals that they would like to speak to. So the act of setting up a police station in somebody else's country is firstly completely unauthorised, and secondly goes against the international practice of how law enforcement works. And as was identified earlier in the video by the FBI, if the USA decided to start setting up police stations all across China, that would result in major international political problems. But over and above the legal jurisdiction, I think the bigger issue here is what China is trying to achieve by setting up these stations. What they're doing is sending a message to anybody that wants to speak out against the government or to make some protests that there is nowhere to hide. We will find you. We will track you down wherever you are in the world. We will have our agents on the ground and they will harass you. They may chase you down. They may try to take you by force. And from the reports we've seen today, they may even decide to take action against your family that is still in China. So the bottom line message that's being sent here is that we will find you. There is no way on earth that you will escape the long hand of the law from China. And I think that is really quite a concerning message, because what it's designed to do is to silence any voices that are trying to speak out about what's going on in China right now. And obviously from a freedom of speech and human rights perspective, that can't be right. So hopefully you found today's episode interesting, useful and thought-provoking. If you've liked what I've said, then please give me a thumbs up. Thank you for watching this video all the way through to the end, and here's something to put a smile on your face.